With so much going on in the world around us, how do we successfully navigate change? Our keynote speaker this morning is Kiew. As the Managing Director of Innovation at the Change Fluency company, Jay sits in the complexity of change daily, having delivered $2 billion of market value across a spectrum of mergers, acquisition, and digital AI transformations. As a Thinkers 360 thought leader in agentic AI, change, and innovation, Kiew is a regular featured in Forbes, the Financial Times, USA Today, and more. Everybody, please put your hands together for Kiew.
Put your fingers up to the moon. Girls, what y'all trying to do? 24-karat magic in the air.
Sheesh. Oh my goodness. The energy in the room is absolutely palpable. And I gotta say, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect coming in yesterday, but I came out of AV check at like 6:30-ish. We were a bit longer, and I came out. I was with my daughter. And right away, I walked right outside into the reception hall, and all I felt was this connectedness. Right? So I don't know if some of you saw me yesterday. I was kind of like dragging along my 3.5-year-old, and so many of you just stopped to just say, hey, like, what? Hey, are you an Agilist? Not me, the daughter. And you're like, are you an Agilist? You're like, hey, I think we have our youngest one here. And I just want to say, like, wow. She felt super welcome. She got to meet a lot of you yesterday, and for those of you who are curious about what she looks like, I'm going to show you in a second, but I often try to travel with my family. A few months ago, we found ourselves right in front of this building. It's in none other than Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And believe it or not, this is a public library. I know, public libraries have definitely stepped up their game in the last few years. It's a public library, but I'm there with my daughter. This is Madison. At the time, she would have told you, she was like, Daddy, I'm 2.5 years old. Now she's about 3.5, and what struck me about the library wasn't the space, because don't get me wrong, it was this beautiful building, lots of books, naturally, toys, a play area. What struck me about the space was not necessarily the beauty of it, but it was actually what came out of the space. You see, as Madison runs up to the entrance, there's this slate gray generative AI display. Has this bluish purple orb, and Madison taps it. It swirls and it says, hi, welcome to the library. I'd like to give you a gift. What kind of image would you like to create today? And Madison doesn't take too long to think about this. She knows. She's like, well, my favorite color is blue. I really like horses, and Mommy and Daddy told me that we're going to Disneyland later on this year. I want a blue horse in Disneyland. And the blue-purple orb swirls just a little bit more. And a few seconds later, this comes out. Maddie's eyes, they light up. She grabs it. She says, look, Daddy, Mommy, look what I made. Look what I created. And she takes this picture, and it came home with us. She put it right by her bedside, and for the last few months, she slept next to it, cherishing it. That is until I stole it, of course. Now she's just part of my content, you know, it's a whole thing. But what's remarkable about this is that at 2.5 years old, my daughter knows without a doubt that she can create whatever she wants. She can create whatever she wants. And I wonder if we, as Agilists, tend to adapt to change as much as my daughter does too. Well, as we think about generative and agentic AI, as we think about different collaborations between PMI and the Agile Alliance, as we think about the next generation of leaders, decision makers of work, how will we navigate change? More importantly, how will we leverage the latest technology to bring our best to life? My name is JQ. I'm probably the only person you'll ever meet who can pronounce his full name in just 2 letters. It's JQ. Kind of like if Jay-Z and GQ had a baby and it was Asian, that would be me. For those of you who are curious, in case you're like, hey, where's that last name from? I'm originally from Singapore. Any Singaporeans in the house? No, okay, just me. Oh, okay. Singapore represent. By the way, there are only like 5 million of us in the world, so I see you, I see you. Singapore is both the place of my birth, but also the place of my first disruption. You see, at 8 months old, my aunt, she's babysitting me. She's babysitting baby Jay, and she thinks to herself, hey, Jay's kind of cute. I should take some pictures. She pulls out one of those old film cameras. The lighting's a bit dark, so she starts snapping, and she's using flash. As she gets those photos developed, our family notices a little something weird. You see, in every photo where flash was used, there's a little red dot right above my left eye. It's cancer. 7 tumors. We rush in to talk to the ophthalmologist. We enucleate my left eye, and I'm left half blind with a prosthetic at the age of 1. And I don't say this for pity, by the way, but I say this because life, in general, disrupts us. We face disruption every day. All of you do, right? We all do. And if you thought that the disruption ended at 1, no, not for any of us, right? Because my parents were DJs, radio disc jockeys, and so we ended up moving a lot. We moved 8 times before I was 12 years old. For any third culture kids in the room, for any military kids in the room, right? You probably get it. You're moving from school to school, and if you don't make friends, you're alone for the semester. We moved so much, we ended up in beautiful Vancouver, BC, where I settled down, and that's where I'm from right now. So I'm from Vancouver, Canada. Oh, okay. All right. A few more. There's like 3 of us. I like it. There's 1 Singaporean and 3 Vancouverites. I love it. And so that was the place where I got to experience a lot more of the changes. In fact, I like change so much, I decided to make a career out of it. I found myself in the world of transformations. I feel like most of you all know the stats, right? But I do want to throw out a few that are really fascinating today. With all of the transformations that we're going through, every single year, we waste $2.6 trillion, whether it's in new digital transformations, whether it's in new AI, right? According to IDC and a few other stats combined. And yet, despite this, only 1 out of 3 projects, right, and as Pierre was alluding to, only 1 out of 3 projects tend to gain a lot of traction. And this year is no different. BCG did a report, and they started to look at the state of generative and agentic AI in the workplace. And what they found was that even this year, nothing's changed. 74% of orgs and transformations in agentic particularly are failing to scale value. You see, most people think that we have a technology problem, but we don't. Because we don't move at the speed of technology. We already have that. We actually move at the speed of the enterprise. That's why enterprise agility feels very, very relevant today. And I don't think that we have a technology problem. I think that we have a people problem. But we could reframe that, right? We don't have a technology problem. We actually have a people opportunity here. Because there is a certain subset of groups, of organizations. In fact, 4% of organizations have unlocked the value of agentic AI. And for those of the orgs who do, the results are absolutely staggering. This is again from the BCG report, but high revenue growth, more returns, more innovation patents. And the one that I'm most fascinated by, employees are just more satisfied. My hypothesis is that because they're the ones using agentic AI so well, they feel like they're at the cutting edge of the latest technology. And I think it all starts with our relationship with this word, disruption. I know it's overused. Disruption's been around for a while, right? And I think about our relationship with disruption even on a Friday. In fact, on Friday I was hanging out with my buddy. His name is B, and he says to me, he's a software developer, and he says to me, hey, Jay, I need to tell you what's going on. Just this past week alone, I've been at my company about 4.5 years, and they just reorged us. Anyone else been through a reorg? You're like, yeah, daily part of my life, right? What is your change mindset as you're going through something like a reorg? It could be any change, right? But my company, my firm, we run the Change Fluency company, and we did research with about 400 different executives over the past few years. What we found with change mindsets is there's actually an easy way to dissect this. A, what's your change interpretation? So are you seeing change as a threat or an opportunity? And then B, what's your change response? So are you frozen, stuck, resistant, or are you adaptive? Well, I asked B, I said, hey, you just went through a reorg right now. What's going on with your team? And he says, man, it's like you took a deck of cards and then just played pickup 52, right? It's just scattered. Everyone got scattered. And one of my friends, we've been friends for a while, he's like on the observer state, right? He sees it as an opportunity, but he's just stuck. He's thinking to himself, yeah, this is fine. I'll just wait and see what happens. The next change mindset is the defender state. Kind of like Jon Snow in the Game of Thrones, right? It's like, we built this wall, we're going to defend it. So one of his colleagues, right, she had built this platform stack for like the last 3.5 years, and she's like, no, I don't want to move. I built this. This is my product. And you're just going to move me? It's a threat. The next change mindset is if I'm seeing change as a threat, but I am adaptive, I might start to head into a bit of a sabotage state, right? Kind of like Pete the Prospector, Stinky Pete from Toy Story. You're smiling, you're thinking, hey, yeah, change, this is great. I love change. Do you love change? And then deep down you're like, I'm gonna kill this project so hard. And then last but not least, of course, if I see change as an opportunity and I'm willing to adapt, how do I be in a change-fluent state? Kind of like Mr. Miyagi, Karate Kid. That's actually Brian, right? B, by the way. I was like, hey, how do you feel about this change? And he thinks to himself, I feel pretty good, actually. I get to try new things. I'm in a different team. But I was kind of getting bored of the other one. He's like, I love my team members to death. I'm really excited about this change. I can't wait. So that brings us the question, what is change fluency? Well, the way we define it is it's an individual's adaptive capacity to translate challenges into opportunities. Kind of like learning a language or second language, right? If I dropped you in Bangkok, right? You might learn a few languages here, or the words or phrases here and there. But if I embed you in the culture for a little bit, you're going to pretty soon be saying, oh yeah, Kap Kun Kap, Sawadee Kap, right? All of that. Thai, represent. Okay, I heard the woo-woo in the house. Got it. And so, as we think about what this means for change, what contributes to how fluid we are when it comes to navigating all of this? So over the next bit, I'm going to unpack the 3 pillars and principles of what contributes to a change fluency mindset. And that's this. How do we discover what's possible? How do we design the future? And then how do we differentiate from the standard? But let's start with the first one. How do we discover what's possible? Back in 2017, I would have considered myself a minimalist. I owned 10 pairs of clothing, a laptop, a suit, and that was it. And my wife and I, we bought our first home together, which in Vancouver, homes are pricey, so we bought an apartment. And then I stopped becoming a minimalist. Because we moved into the apartment, by the way, this is Teresa. We moved in the apartment, it was empty. You're like, yes, Jay, that's how apartments work. They're empty when you buy them. But we asked ourselves the question, what matters now? And what mattered now is we needed a kitchen appliances, TVs, a sofa, you name it. And my living room started to pile up with all this stuff. The pandemic hit. We went ahead and got ourselves a pandemic puppy. Any dog owners in the room, by the way? Yeah, okay. Whistles, oh, we're getting there. This is Brooklyn, he's a Shiba Inu. He's an absolute pain in my ass. But I love him to death. We bought him, we said, hey, what matters now? And what mattered now was we needed a dog crate, toys, treats, and my living room just keeps on piling up with stuff in this small 756 square foot apartment. Well, the pandemic continued and we didn't have anything else to do. Madison came along and we asked ourselves the same question. We asked ourselves, what matters now? And go ahead and yell it out. What kind of items do you think we bought when Madison came along? Go ahead and shout it out. Diapers, yeah. I hear crate? Crib, oh, sorry, my bad. No one's putting their kids in crates. Yeah, diapers, cribs, toys, you name it. And bottles, thank you. You're like, bro, you can't forget the bottles. And I'm sitting in my living room, I'm surrounded by all of this stuff. And I realized I've been asking myself the wrong question. You see, I've been asking myself the question, what matters now? When I should have been asking myself the question, what matters most? What matters most? And so if I think about discovering what's possible, it actually requires us to zoom out, to zoom in. Because today in 2025, we're inundated with noise, right? Amen? Now more than ever before, we're inundated with noise. And honestly, I kind of feel like this panda trying to figure out life. Take a look. Yep. It's a tough life for a panda out there, I'll tell you that. And I think it's because when we think about noise, most of us try to ignore it, or we try to avoid it. But the truth is this, is that navigating the noise is actually what gets us the signal. Navigating the noise is what gets us the signal. And so here are a few signals that I think are happening in our world, in the Agile world. Number one, our behavior is shifting. Our behavior is fundamentally shifting. You see, one example is search has shifted from information to insight. A few years ago, I would have used Google to search up anything. And now I'm opening an app like Perplexity. If the stock market crashed, I'm pulling up saying, hey, the stock market crashed. What's a value stock that I should be buying? And right away, it's giving me, based on live data, here are 5 value stocks at a very good PE ratio that you could consider for your portfolio. It's giving me insight. It's not just giving me answers. The second signal that I've noticed is that we've moved from disruption to displacement. About a year ago, I took a look at about 50 million ChatGPT conversations that I said, hey, what are people using ChatGPT for? And these were the results, even a year ago. No surprise here, the number one example was just images and videos, right? Images and videos. So I want to play a game with you. It's called Real or Fake. I'm going to show you a quick clip, and then I'm going to count you down, say 3, 2, 1, and you're just going to yell out if you think it's real or if it's fake. Sound good? Okay, so 3, 2, 1. Y'all saw this. Cool. It's fake. That was OpenAI's Sora model. That was about a year ago in March 2024. What about this one? 3, 2, 1. Of course, it's got to be real, right? Someone's like, Jay, you have a thing for pandas. This is also fake. This is a Chinese model called Kling AI. One of the best models in terms of textures, right? Creating things like visual animals, you name it. I've got one more for you.
I mean, man, the acceleration is crazy. You look far, step on the pedal, and you are there.
3, 2, 1. Okay, can someone just yell out, why do you think that's fake? You saw it last week? Yeah, so Google VO launched VO 3 probably about a few weeks ago now, and this came out. And what they've gotten really good at is being able to model how people are interviewed or people are talking, which brings up a whole series of implications when it comes to deepfakes. And it's led me to this third signal, which is this. I don't think work is work anymore. I think work has definitely shifted to orchestration. What do I mean by that? If you think about the 5 levels of AI intelligence, right, you have chatbots. We checked that off in 2023. We got to PhD reasoning. That was a bit about last year in October. We then now are in the space over the past 6 to 9 months of agents being new. Just a few weeks ago, OpenAI launched agents for ChatGPT. But then so did Google when it came to Opal. That was what, Thursday? But I don't think that matters, because that's what matters now. And I'd encourage us to think, okay, well, what actually matters most? And what matters most is where we're going. Because in the future, pretty closely, we're going to have AI-powered innovations. We see that in healthcare already. But then what would an entirely AI-powered organization look like? Because a lot of startups are actually building AI native, right? They're thinking, how do I run a $100 million company with 10 of us? What would that look like? And so it's fascinating, right, as you start to think about AI. Don't ask what matters now, because all of the hype, you see it. You see it in your screens, your news feeds. But ask yourself, out of this, what matters most? What matters most, I think, is really cool. Is when you think about agentic AI, it's actually pretty cool, right? Our workflows are being redesigned. If I have an idea, I can build out an agent to start to do the design, the research, to write. If I don't like what it's doing, I can have it iterate on itself. I had OpenAI's agent last week book me a reservation, not because I needed it to. I could have picked up the phone, but I just wanted to try it out, right? Discovering what's possible. It's really fascinating. This came out about a month ago from the CEO of Anthropic, Claude, the Claude platform. And this struck me a little. He said, our devs are orchestrating multiple Claude instances like conductors. 90% of code will be written by AI within 10 months. And we're already at 70%. And what that is leading us to me, when I think about what matters most, is that our org charts are actually going to start to shift. Here's one I mocked up, but here's the sample, right? You're not going to just have VPs of sales and HR and ops and product anymore. What we are going to do is we're going to have those people still there and AI leads for their functions, because you're going to need someone to create all of the agents to do the stuff, but also to oversight, to think about human in the loop, all of these things. Now, I've been chatting for a while, and part of this conference, the purpose of this is not just for me to speak to you. It's actually for you to unpack what's going on live in your worlds. So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes, and here are a few ideas, but I'm curious, in your world, just turn to the person next to you if willing. If you want to just chill out for the next 3 minutes, feel free to do that too. But what matters most when you think about the world of Agile? Maybe it's AI and automation, maybe it's AI skepticism, maybe it's an evolution of Agile rule, I don't know. Maybe it's something that's not even on this page. But we'll get the lights up a little bit. 3 minutes, just turn to the person next to you. What do you think matters most when it comes to Agile? Ready? Go. Okay. Bring it in, bring it in. Would love to hear back from the room, just like what's going on in your world. I might have, if we have mic runners, by the way, we've got Andrea up front who has this really great story about what's going on in her world. She's in the green right up here. And then if anyone else, if we can help with mics too, that would be great. But we'll just get like 2 or 3 answers. I'm curious, literally, like what is happening in the world of Agile today?
Hi, I'm really enjoying this so far. So I have been in the Agile world since 2015. To me, it's always been about effective communication and relationships. I am an independent consultant on that now, and I had a contract with the government a state agency. They had done a voice of the customer survey. The number one thing by far was that customers reported feeling not heard or not understood. So the director of customer experience said, oh, that's a problem with empathy. We'll bring in an empathy expert. Will help us solve this. There was an executive who saw that after the purchase order went through and said, this is woke. I don't want it, and I never want to see her name on a purchase order again. So, you know, it's the thing that we need this stuff now more than ever, and we've got to change how we talk about it. That takes energy, but I'm confident that at the end of the day, human connection, which is what Agile is all about, that's what's going to win, and that's what's going to help us navigate the chaos and the complexity and the change that we're experiencing in the world right now.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, let's give her a round of applause. Anyone else, maybe at the back? Oh yeah, we got a mic right there. Awesome, thank you.
I'm Luke at Progressive, and I'm in the networking space, and we're trying to adapt Agile from the software. Like a lot of our cloud app development teams, they all use Agile, and you know they love it. Upper management loves it. They think it's great, and now they're swinging. Okay, network infrastructure, physical infrastructure. You use Agile now, and we're like, not built for that. Do it anyways. So that's a big struggle we're having right now in trying to move it all over to adapt.
Awesome, thank you. Let's give him a round of applause. Like, how do we bring people on the journey of that? Maybe we'll just take one more for time's sake. We have in the blue, the gentleman up here. Thank you so much.
To me, anyway, what matters most is the first Agile value, which is people over processes and tools. Because it's not about project success alone. It's about people having great lives. And to me, that's what matters most.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, another round of applause for him. It strikes me that as we think about what matters most in your world, there's so many mic drop moments, right? Where it is definitely about the empathy and about the people, too. And as I think about what's necessary, right, to continue to unpack this, by the way, this is just the primer. You're going to be together for the next few days. To discover what's possible, how do we build buffer to even do that in the first place? And 3 quick ways that you can do that is number 1, you can block an hour each week. Because if you don't have time to even think about it, how are we going to explore? Number 2, ask yourself what matters now, which then shifts you into asking the question, what matters most? The second principle of the Change Fluency mindset is how do we design the future? And I want to play a game with you. I need a volunteer who likes vacations. And just come up on stage. First person to come up. Otherwise, I'm going to pick. Yeah, right there. Come on up. Yeah. Give her a round of applause as she walks up. And she'll be using the podium mic as a heads up. So come on up. A bit of context for what we're about to do here. We're going to play a game called I Wonder. Anyone use Airbnb or Uber? Yeah, most of us used Uber to get here, right? By the way, what's your name? Lonnie. We chatted.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm just going to have you stand here so that we can hear you.
Okay.
So Airbnb, Uber, when you give a rating, what's that usually out of?
5.
Yeah, 5 stars, right?
Right.
5 stars usually means what?
It was awesome.
It was awesome. Was it? Or was it like, yeah, I got there. Good job. Like, what do you think?
No, it has to be awesome.
Okay, you're one of those, you're like, unless I get a bottle of water in the car, I'm not writing the 5. Is that right?
No,
No?
it's awesome unless they get lost.
Right. So you're like, hey, you don't get lost, you get me to my destination, that's awesome, 5 stars.
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. So 5 stars is usually in the industry, right? Like, good enough.
Right.
So Brian Chesky, he's the CEO of Airbnb. He started to try to imagine, he applied the design thinking exercise called the 10-star experience instead of the 5-star experience.
Okay.
And so I'm going to walk you through it right now live.
Okay.
Where would you like to go on vacation?
Sweden.
Sweden.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's say you land in Sweden. You're at your Airbnb, and what's your favorite thing to eat or drink?
Pastries.
Oh, ooh, yeah. She's got good taste, by the way. You know, so she gets into Sweden. Maybe you're in Norway. 6-star experience might be you walk in and they know that you like pastries,
Yeah.
and there's a platter of freshly baked pastries sitting there on the counter.
Yep.
Now let me ask you this, and all you have to do is start with this statement, I wonder, what would a 7th-star experience look like? So if that's a 6-star experience, what would a 7th-star experience look like?
And you want me to start with I wonder?
Yeah, I wonder if.
I wonder if there's nuts in these or if they gave us choices so we could all enjoy them.
Right, okay, so are you allergic to nuts?
No, but some people are.
Right, okay, great. So a 7th-star experience is not just the pastries, but it's like they've looked at your dietary restrictions. They've
Right.
considered and taken the step to do that.
Yes.
Okay, an 8th-star experience, maybe, let's amp it up, by the way. Let's like raise the stakes here.
Okay.
An 8th-star experience for me, maybe you land in Norway and there's an elephant.
A what?
An elephant.
Oh.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, welcome to Sweden. And they put you on the elephant, and you ride on the elephant to your Airbnb.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so if that's the 8th-star experience, what would a 9th-star experience be?
Oh. A 9-star experience would be, gosh, a convertible luxury vehicle?
Okay, over an elephant. She's like, Jay, I'm not all about elephants. Give me the goods, man. What kind of convertible luxury vehicle are we talking about?
Oh, let's go with Mercedes.
Classic, pristine. You hop off the elephant magically, and you plop right in a Mercedes.
Yes, it's a lot more
9
comfortable.
star.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Clean.
And then I think, okay, well, 10th-star experience, I wonder what it would be like if you land and there's Jeff Bezos right there. And Jeff's like, hey, Lori, good to see you. We're actually going to go into space. We're not going to Sweden. And so he takes you into his spaceship and like ships you up, and you do get back eventually. But that would be like a 10-star experience. Let's give Lori a round of applause, by the way. Thank you.
You're sorry.
No, that's good. You did great. And so this is the 10-star experience, and it's used in design thinking a lot to just say, I wonder what. Because if you stop at 5 stars, you stop at good enough, what's there to build beyond that? But when we use the handcrafted part of our brain, the creative part of our brain that's used for thinking and generating, how quickly are we able to get to cool ideas? And by the way, the point is not to get to a 9, 10-star experience that you're going to deliver, but so many times we get stuck in what's good enough. And as Brian tells this story, he was at Stanford a few years ago, he said, hey, what would it look like if we did this? Well, here's the results of them implementing the 10-star experience. Take a look.
And what ended up happening in our business is Hilton was started in 1919, over 100 years ago, and we were able to have the entire growth of Hilton in 10 years. And this is how you do it without, we had some marketing, but not, initially not a lot.
Are we designing for good enough? Are we designing for just good enough? One thing that I love about the 10-star experience is this. It allows us to design for the best so that we can disrupt with better. It allows us to design for the best so that we can disrupt for the better. Which brings us to how do we design the future? It actually is very simple. It's this. How do we work in wonder? You saw a few images and videos earlier, right? It has you asking the question, I wonder if I can create a video of a gorilla walking through a jungle, a firefighter walking through a burning building, an MMA fighter walking into the ring. It has you playing with the statement, simply this, I wonder what I can create. A buddy of mine out of Vancouver, he's a videographer in the creative arts, and he recently got pretty disrupted over the past year, especially as Runway and Lionsgate partnered together to create the first AI-powered movie. He didn't want to just be left to his own devices and to lose out. So he started playing around. And this is something that he posted a week ago. Take a look. That's him, by the way. Actually, what his face looks like.
This is home base calling in. We've picked up a signal from the last expedition team. You're to descend and try to locate them.
Isn't that wild? He did that in 2 hours using 4 different apps. And by the way, if you're like, yeah, Jay, that doesn't look real, I'm with you. But this is the worst that it's going to get. This is the worst video quality you're going to get when it comes to generative video. And I asked him, I texted him on LinkedIn, I was like, hey man, thanks for sending this over. What are your thoughts? You don't have to read all of it, I'm going to highlight a few. And it comes to this. In his words, I think more than ever, individuals and companies alike need to make time for play. They need to make time for wonder. So I thought to myself, when I think about this room, what would it look like if I reimagined product strategy? What would that look like? And if tomorrow is all about AI agents, well, here's a use case that I would work in Wonder for. We would start with customer success. Customer success has all these generative AI responses, and it starts to pull from that. But then, as I'm dealing with a customer complaint, I might get the fact that a competitor is mentioned in the chat. AI starts to run on that and notices the competitor, and it creates a competitor battle card. As the battle card is added and highlighted for our sales intelligence, market intelligence groups, it actually then starts to feed into and starts to take action on an AI voice of the customer. This is a platform called Ignition, but there's probably a lot out there. And it takes the customer feedback live and proposes either new product ideas, new features that can live update your product roadmap based on your current backlog. This is just a sample. And then it would continue on beyond that to say, okay, well, we need project management in the room, right? So why don't we create, this is a sample from Monday.com, you all probably have Asana or ClickUp or whatever, and then it creates the project plan for you. If you're like, yeah, we want that feature. And then beyond that, it's monitoring on live as it's joining your calls, right? This is a sample of Asana. It's live monitoring the calls to say, oh, wait a minute, that's an issue or a risk that was identified. We should probably flag that too. And this is just an example, by the way, right? My point is this. AI agents give us infinite leverage. Because the truth is, I'm probably the least tech-savvy person in the room. Can I just call that out? And yet, I can build my own chatbot in an hour. The point of working in Wonder is not that we don't know what to do. It's how do we create the space to do it? Because Wonder is the spark to innovation. To design the future, 3 quick ways for us to do that is this. How do we dream up a 10-star experience? How do we ground ourselves in 6 stars? And then how do we start to add experimenter to our job profile so that it actually becomes an intuitive part of what we do on a daily basis? Now, usually I lean a lot heavier into the AI stuff in any talk, but the theme of today feels like it's actually agility. How do we move faster and how do we adapt? And so I'm going to play some music low in the background. If you want to pull up your phones and scan this QR code, I get asked a lot about what my tech stack is. So, by the way, I don't have anything to sell you. You can't buy anything even if you try it, if you scan this. But what's on this page is the only page that I maintain about the latest updates on artificial intelligence, generative AI, agentic AI 101. I include my tech stack, and then a few other ones as well. And as you're filling that out, what I'd like to do is pause now for a bit of time on Q&A. So if anyone does have questions at this point, why don't we pause? We'll pull up, thank you, read my mind, the lights are up. We'll have a few mic runners running around. Any things that are top of mind for you right now? Any questions that you have as you sit in this space, whether it's about Change Fluency or Agentic or the future of work?
I noticed that all of the things that we're showing as the things we can do are things that will benefit people who already have resources, people who already have the ability to dream about things like this. And I just wonder, we're talking about how we bring our, that sense of discovery and innovation. How do we actually harness that to help everyone? And I'm in this world, I know this world, but that was the thing that I've been sitting here thinking about a bit. The things we're implicitly saying we should dream about in a session like this.
I love that question. When I was 13, one of the most traumatic events of my life was actually not the cancer, by the way. It was when I wanted to go to summer camp. I was in grade 8, and I said, hey, Mom, can I go to the summer camp? The whole class is going to it. And my mom replies, no, honey, we don't have the money for it. And that broke my heart for the longest time. And when you talk about accessibility to people who, the haves versus the have-nots, I actually think that this is the democratization of access. I'll give you an example. I speak in the education space quite a bit. And as I think about how much it would have cost to get a tutor, just for one subject alone, in the past, that would have been $75 an hour, $50 an hour. My parents maybe could have afforded one tutor because I sucked at organic chemistry, right? And yet nowadays, I can have the voice mode in ChatGPT walk me through organic chemistry for $25 a month on any other topics I could possibly want. So I actually think, yes, we definitely need to consider how are we designing, because there's a lot of designers in the room, just to call it out. How are we designing for accessibility and inclusion and belonging? So like, great point. And I also think that this is a bit of an unlock. We have a question up here. Awesome.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Marcus Silpala. That section you just showed us about making room for wonder and the example of, hey, now we can have AI live updating our risks and backlog items and stuff based on feedback. I have a really strong mix of reactions to that. On the one hand, take more time, make room for wonder, take more time to do the human thinking to help with the orchestration. That's really close to what we've been trying to get companies to do for the last 20 years. And AI doesn't seem to be naturally helping make that an easier message. If anything, it's increasing the pressure. Oh, well, now we've got these agents, so our humans shouldn't have to spend as much time. So I see it making it harder to make space for wonder because management is looking at the wrong numbers or looking at the numbers that feel relevant to them. I also feel like, hey, it'd be cool to get that feedback right into the product space, but at the same time, holy cow, that's a lot of AI slop that's making constant tweaks to our backlog that's going to be a big mess for some humans to try to sort out, well, what's really good here and what's a hallucination.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. There is a lot of AI slop out there, and you don't have to accept all of the product roadmap features proposed either, right? So there are ways that you can tweak and curate to say, oh, we've heard about this feature 100 times or 1,000. What are those thresholds? But you're right. If you're not, or your organization isn't creating the space to work in wonder, how are you even supposed to? Because all of this takes time. And as I think about the 4% of the organizations who have figured it out, they're actually the ones who have been most at risk of disruption. One example is a financial services advisory firm that I worked with, and they realized that they send out, their whole brand is what kind of recommendations are they getting live to their clients. Perplexity can do that right now. And I'm like, well, let's rethink about this. How do we, and they're totally on board. And so the imperative, the priority to Work in Wonder, you're right, is also a big challenge too. Awesome. We got a mic at the back, and then we're gonna close out.
Hi, my name's Jeremiah Steele. You kind of hit on it a little bit with your comments there, but if you could dive a little bit deeper into how do you stop the frantic, the constant, we don't have time to stop and innovate, make room for wonder. What would you advise an organization that just can't seem to slow down, even though they know they're in pain?
Yeah, one of the biggest things execs wrestle with in partnering with them is strategic sacrifice. Because to your point, if an exec is saying yes, yes, yes all the time, and you have more and more and more on your plate, it's actually executive coaching that we need to say, well, wait a minute, for you to shift directions, we need to trade off and delete. There's this phrase in the book publishing world called kill your darlings. I don't know if anyone's heard about that, but killing your darlings is the concept of like making the intentional decision to cut out that with what you love. That's a valued product feature or product set. It took me like, I used to lead strategy for a digital healthcare company, and it actually took me, I don't know, a year for us to kill off a $300,000 product that had 2 employees attached to it when we were a $2 billion company. I'm like, we don't need this. And you're right, it's how do you coach the execs on, no, this is a conversation not about more or innovation. This is a conversation about strategically sacrificing so that we can grow. Does that make sense? Awesome. As we start to close out our time, the last principle that we have is, I love that you brought up AI slop, because there is so much crap out there that the only thing that I think matters most as I wrestle with this is how do we differentiate from the standard? We all hate M-dashes now. Is that we all agreement now? Right? As we've seen what AI can do, now it's a question of how do we differentiate from the standard to create something totally nuanced? And it actually takes me back to March 3rd, 2024. Actually, 2023. It's 2 years ago. March 3rd, 2023, I get an email from my endocrinologist, and it says, Jay, we don't know how else to tell you this, but we found a tumor in your pituitary gland. And as a cancer survivor, I thought to myself, oh, shoot, not again. And that, they're like, it's 0.5 millimeters in length. And in that moment, that millimeter tumor felt like a 1,000,000-pound mountain. And I thought to myself, well, you know, the first time I navigated cancer, don't get me wrong, I had my care team and my family members, but I thought to myself, what would happen if I dealt with it differently this time? How would I differentiate from the standard? And so I decided to tell my community, I decided to tell my friends, which is a lot easier said than done when you're at dim sum, and you're like, hey, Pete, Jack, can you pass the shumai? Also, by the way, I've got a tumor in my head. Awkward. But one of my friends, so most of my friends reacted in the same way that you would expect. But one of my friends was different. His name is Jeff. Jeff and I, we grabbed brunch. I've told about 5 of my friends at this point. And I started to go into what felt like a spiel at that time. It's very fact-driven. I said, Jeff, I don't know how else to tell you this, but I've got a tumor in my pituitary gland. Jeff doesn't say anything. He takes that information in for just a brief second, and then he reaches across the table, and he holds my hand. And Jeff and I have never held hands before. But when he holds my hand, my mind flashes forward to everything that I could possibly want. A lot of you met Madison yesterday, and I flashed forward from her learning how to ride a scooter a few months ago to, as Teresa was sharing, this notion of hanging out on your birthday because your 30-year-old daughter wants to. Like, that's my dream. We just had an 8-month-old, we have an 8-month-old now. Chloe was born back in November. And I just flashed forward to seeing her walking across a stage like this one when she's 16, and she catches my eyes in the crowd, and she says, "Look, Daddy, I did it. I graduated high school." Jeff squeezes my hand. And with that small but unexpected gesture, Jeff has created a moment with care. Because how do we differentiate from the standard? It's seeing the people that are right in front of us. And I love that out of all of the Q&A parts and the feedback earlier with what matters most, you're like, Jay, what about the human piece? That's what we're all about in this room. What strikes me is that we're built for belonging, and yet our society is too busy for belonging. We're moving too quickly. In this room, you're actually the ones who can differentiate from standard because you're the ones who create the space to care about the people who are doing the dev work and who are building enterprise agility and who are driving strategy. You're the ones who are checking in with the people. And the 3 tips to create with care, you honestly probably already do it. Can I just say that? And so this is simple yet profound, but it's this notion of how do we check in for visibility? How do we start to send a nudge whenever we think about someone to just say, hey, how are you doing this morning? I heard you got reorged. B, you okay? And then last but not least, how do we just hold space for them? Right? Because yes, things are moving so quickly, and to your question, people are moving more now than ever before, and everyone wants momentum. But I think we need more moments over momentum. We need more moments over momentum. I need to end by telling you about this guy. His name is Roger. He was a DJ. He was a DJ in Singapore, and throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s, he was the most famous DJ in Singapore. He got to interview some of the greats, like Toni Braxton, the Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears. If you were going through Singapore and throughout the 70s to 90s, you would have been interviewed by Roger. You see, one of the reasons that Roger was so famous was not only was he great at interviewing people, Roger was also blind. He had this jingle that went, "Roger Cool on the radio." At some point, Roger gets into the booth with none other than Stevie Wonder, who, as you know, is also blind. And Roger says to Stevie, he says, "Oh my gosh, Stevie Wonder, it is very rare that there is ever a point where there are 2 blind dudes sitting next to each other talking shop. Can I share something with you?" And Stevie says, "Yeah, sure, hit me, Roger." Roger says, "Well, Stevie, there are many things that are impossible for a blind person. You can't drive, and you can't become a surgeon. But for everything else is possible. What do you think about that?" And Stevie mulls that over for just a few seconds, and he reaches into his pocket, and he pulls out his harmonica. He blows a few notes. He says, "Yeah, Roger, I completely agree. And it's actually up to us to do what we do so that we can create the next generation of people who do what we do. You see, if I didn't use my harmonica and to play music and sing and do my thing, and if you didn't use your microphone to interview, and there wouldn't be blind musicians or blind DJs." And with that, he takes his harmonica and he hands it to Roger. This harmonica, because Roger Cool was his moniker, but his last name was Kiew. Roger was my father. And my dad passed away in 2005, and this year is kind of a weird year for me because it marks the 20th anniversary, and as I think about that, everything that we do when it comes to navigating change, it always just has me brought back to even their change mindset in the moment. right? Because as I think about my model and what I've built, it's like, oh, am I seeing everything that's moving around us? Am I seeing that from a defender state of like, what can I do to protect myself? Am I thinking about how to sabotage? Am I like, hey, you know what? Things are going to play out the way they are. I'm just going to observe. This is all fine. And I'm always driven to this notion of how do we be more change fluent, right? How do we start to think about things just a little bit differently? I heard someone say during the breakouts that, like, man, this technology, it's remarkable. But I can't help but ask, what makes humans remarkable? What makes us remarkable? And it's this. We're the ones who can discover what's possible by zooming out to zoom in. We're the ones who can design the future by working in wonder. And we're the ones who can differentiate from the standard by creating with care. You see, most people wait for today for the disruption to hit tomorrow. But I invite us to disrupt today as you design tomorrow. Thank you so much for having me. My name is JQ. Have an amazing Agile 2025.